Okay, so this is my video explaining my project, and as you can see, there's a lot going on here, so I'm going to explain it component by component, but first things first, this is the Uno I'm going to use. It is unattached, but will require a separate battery, which I have in the cord. It has the power supply over here, the bright LED, which is going for now over here. This may change in position depending on the need for the project. Motor 1, this one is not, this is a stand-in, as you can see, for an unpotted motor. Motor number 2 is over here. Again, that's a stand-in. We've got the IR receiver up here. Again, this is kind of free-floating, but since this is just for showing the mock-up, it's up there for now. It will probably remain there. And last but not least, we have the control board for the stepper motor, and we've got the stepper motor itself. We also have the H-bridge chip down there. The first thing I'll explain is probably the easiest to explain, or partially, is the stepper motor setup. So for this, I actually kept the pins the same as the lab. So this black wire, which is the first pin on the stepper motor, is attached to pin 9 on the, pin 8 on the Uno. Pin 9 is attached, which is the purple motor, is attached to pin 9 on the board. So pin 2 to pin 9. Pin 3 on the stepper motor is the blue wire, and that is attached neatly to pin 10 on the Uno. Pin 4 on the board is attached to pin 11 on the Uno. Now the power module gets a little bit more tricky. The negative is the black wire right there, which is attached to a position on this breadboard, and this yellow wire attaches it to a ground that is a ground on this entire bar for the first thing, which is attached to, which following this white wire goes to ground on the Uno. This second orange wire goes to another ground on the Uno, and that also accommodates the negative. As you can see, this ground is a negative on the power supply over here, and this positive on the power supply goes to over here, which also goes to the positive on the board. And then the stepper motor is attached to this motor. Now, for the actual project, a piece of string will be attached to here, and the wire will crank, which will eventually pull a pin back, which will be for the ball dropping mechanism. But that is currently unattached right now. Next, I am going to explain the setup for the IR receiver. On the IR receiver, the yellow cord, which is the signal cord, on the far right, is attached to pin 13 on the Uno. You have the middle pin, which is the brown pin, kind of traveling through over here, attached to the ground on the board. Actually, attached to the positive on the board. My apologies. So that is positive. This entire row, the inner row, donated on the red on the board, is all positive, which is hooked up to the 5-volt on the board via this green cord over here. Now, The negative of this is this, I think that's gray on this, which is obviously attached through the gray to the ground, which I've already established is connected all the way through on that. So next on here, we have the LED, which is attached to that orange wire, which is attached to pin 2 over here. And then it passes through the LED, through a resistor, and then to ground. Okay, so I saved last for the motors in the H drive, because this can get a little complicated, particularly on this board. So, we've got, again, just a reminder is that we've got the 5 volts going over to this positive area over here. So that's that 5 volts over to here. Now then, we've got that going to pin 16 on the H drive from another green cord, which attaches again to the positive, which is that connection right there. Now moving to pin 1, we have pin 1 on the H drive connected through this orange pin over here to pin 3 on the board. Pin 4 on the board is this white one right here, which is attached to pin 2 on the H drive. Pin 3 is attached to the positive terminal on the motor. Pin 4 on the H drive, by this, it's pin 3 on the H drive, which is that red line right there. Pin 4 and pin 5 are both hooked to ground on this terminal, which is then hooked up to that ground over there. Pin 5 on the H drive is hooked up to the black one on this motor, which represents the negative terminal. Now, pin 6 is attached, and this is where it gets a little tricky, to this green one over here. Now, this green one over here is actually attached to pin 7 because of setup and power pins, which I tried to specifically set up in a certain way. There's a method to my madness. It's easier to follow on the Fritzig diagram, which will be available, but it is following this. And then pin 8 is attached to positive, and this positive is attached to over here, which is attached to the battery power supply. And again, the power supply is also hooked up to the negative. Following the red wire, it goes there, 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 there. Little bit of a hookup, sorry. There, 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 there. Now, going to the other motor, this green, which I said this is a jumbled mess, but, which is why I have to be careful with explaining it. But this pin is pin 9, which is this green one. Now, this green one is attached to the power pin over here, which, as you can see on there, is pin 4. Pin 10 is this orange one over here, which I'm kind of, is this orange one, which I'm trying to get a good vantage point on. It's down there. I'm gonna wiggle it. It's that one. Yeah, that one right there. That's pin 10 on the H drive, which goes, if you follow that, it's pin 6 on the Arduino Uno. Now, pin 11 is hooked up to the positive terminal of this motor. Pin 11 is hooked up to the hooked up to the positive terminal of this motor. As you can see, kind of, I'll wiggle it. Pin 12 and 13 on this are grounded, as they should be. Pin 14 is hooked up to the motor. The black wire on the motor is hooked up to pin 14. And pin 15 is the last one on here. And that is hooked up to this wire, which kind of hard to see in this jumble, but it's green. It's this one right here. And that is hooked up. We follow that one to pin 12 on the Uno. And that covers all of it. It's a little complicated, and there's a lot going on, but it all works out, and I hope that this is helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. The fritzing diagram I've also adjusted and updated because I noticed a few errors from the first time I sent it, so that will be coming to you via email. Thank you very much for your time.